Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olivia Murphy. I use she, her pronouns. I am the resident director for a capstone on-campus management at the University of Maryland, and I will be serving as your moderator today. I know a lot of people are still filtering into this space, so just to sort of brief us on the topic of today to get us started, we're excited to welcome you to our roundtable for May as part of our larger series that we're going to continue on into the summer and into the fall, and hopefully reach on some really awesome topics that benefit us as women in housing. Our topic for today is It's a Wrap. I'm sure you saw from your registration that we're going to be, talking about this last year and the difficulties that some of us may have experienced within the professional and, personal spaces that we find ourselves in. But we're really excited to just share a space with our two panelists and one another, and hopefully take away some really great things that we can utilize in our own lives moving forward. So just a little bit about the vision of ACUHO-I and Women's Housing Committee and our knowledge-based resource that we have here. Our vision is really to seek and create content and to help women and sustain these roundtables, like the one you're about to experience. We want to make sure we can gather resources and share them and build on our regional toolkits for our 9 regions and make sure that they're able to be freely accessed for everyone and to be put to use in all the ways that they can be. And we're also really excited to talk a little bit about the recruiting mentors and mentee program that we're going to have, and hopefully have some women sign up for that and create some partnerships that will benefit us moving forward. So we're going to get started. I think a lot of us are in the space. I'm going to be very transparent. This is my first time ever facilitating a roundtable and moderating. So just be gracious with me. I am really excited. And I think it's going to be a really great hour together. Awesome. So just to sort of kick us off as we start the day, a lot of our excellent co-chairs and co-chair-elects are with us today. So if any of you all would just like to pop in and introduce yourselves and say hello to everyone, I think that would be awesome before we kick us off.
Hi, everybody. I think Melinda had to step out to go to another meeting. Most of us are in closing, so we all understand the time constraints. My name is Estrellita Longoria. I use she, her pronouns, and you can call me Star. I am one of the co-chair-elects for the Women in Housing Network. And today, is all about making a safe space and things like that. So typically we take notes down in order to create our Facebook features and things like that, but we will not be doing that today so that folks can really have a safe space, to connect with each other. So I just wanted to preface that. I don't know if Deanna and Paige are in the room yet. But if they're not, we've also got some great subcommittee chairs in the meeting. Jackie Sotera from Bucknell is here as well. So thank you all for being here. Olivia, you're doing great.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so just a little bit about our panelists today. So Yara Draycrat and Amanda Groves are joining us for our 2 panelists. Yara is an assistant residence life coordinator at the University of South Florida. So she's joining us from the sunny section of the country right now. And then Amanda Groves is a licensed professional counselor for the Center for Evidence-Based Treatment in Ohio. And so we're really excited to have the 2 of them join us today to offer their different perspectives and insight and to sort of kick us off and introduce themselves. If you 2 just want to introduce yourselves, maybe share your pronouns, and then maybe share a title or accomplishment that you have that you feel influences how you operate mindfully to support other women in what you do. If you want to kick us off, that would be awesome.
I can go first. Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Amanda Groves. I use she, her pronouns. As Olivia said, thank you for that introduction. I'm a licensed professional counselor and also a DBT therapist in Ohio. Prior to my time working as a therapist, I actually have a master's degree in higher education. And so I worked professionally in housing for 5 years at various universities. So I have a lot of experience working in residence life and also student affairs. And then what was the second part, Olivia? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, if you maybe just want to share an accomplishment or something that you feel that you do to just support women in your spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my focus areas is concentrating on being a victim advocate, as well as focusing on healthy relationships and having individuals who are in unhealthy relationships find the support they need. And so I think that's one way that I advocate for women. And then, obviously I know that it relates to both men and women in relationships, but that's one of the areas that I specialize in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yara Zraykat. I use the she, her pronouns. And as Olivia said, I am an assistant residence life coordinator over at the University of South Florida. I am a graduate student. I just finished up my first year at the university, which is exciting. And I am in USF's Student Affairs program. So I just have one more year left. But some things about me are that I'm from Texas. I moved here from over there to Florida. And I guess that's something I'm really proud of, is just being really adaptable, especially during this time, during the pandemic. And that's a little bit about me. Yes, Texas girl. I went to the University of North Texas, if you know where that is. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, you two. So a little just quick overview of our time together before we jump into questions for our panelists. We're going to spend like 40-45 minutes together doing questions. We have 3 for the panelists and 2 that we'd like to open up to all of you to offer your thoughts and insight to. Our time is being recorded together, so obviously feel free to keep yourself muted unless you'd like to contribute in any way. We really want to make this a conversational based time together. And so less talking at and more talking with, hopefully do some learning together. And then feel free to use the chat function to drop any questions that you have. And if we have time at the end, we'll absolutely bring those up to our panelists as well. And any ones that we can get to today, we will carry over and hopefully address in some of our other roundtables together if they relate to the topics moving forward. Awesome. Okay. We're going to get started with one of our first questions. So for our 2 panelists, if you don't mind just sharing some of your background on who you are in your current role, and then how do you currently do self-care when it comes to facing the challenges that you have within the things that you're involved in your current positions?
Yeah, I can start. So a little bit about my role currently. So I work at a private practice in Ohio called Center for Evidence-Based Treatment. And so what we do is we focus on using evidence-based practices, and we work mostly with adolescents and young adults, and even some of our older adult population who have a lot of suicidality, self-harm, and some eating disorders. And so we're actually one of the only places in the country that actually specializes in both. And so what we do is we use dialectical behavioral therapy as well as cognitive behavioral therapy and family-based treatment. And then we utilize that in a really structured way to get people support and help that they need. And so as you can imagine, I'm working with folks who are chronically suicidal. And so that can be really challenging and really stressful. Coming from housing, I think it was a really nice way for me to step into this role, because obviously serving on call and responding to crisis situations was nothing new to me. And so a lot of the self-care I do now has been really practicing on reducing my vulnerability to stress and anxiety, and really being proactive rather than reactive to stress. So it's kind of like what you would share with students is like attending to your basic needs. I think sometimes we really forget that our basic needs are some of the most important things, and they really fall through the cracks. So I'm thinking about like our sleep, our balanced diet, our exercise. Like those are some of the first things to go, especially when you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, maybe sometimes for folks who are in housing and serving on call. Also, one of the things that I do for self-care is try to just build mastery. And so trying to find something daily that I can feel competent and feel accomplished in, that really brings me a lot of self-care and joy. Then also trying to really accumulate positive experiences has been really important. So trying to find one thing per day that really makes me feel like my life's worth living and I can really reach my goals. And so that's what really been my focus and my change in my thinking is really about being proactive to my stress and doing things on a regular basis to help manage it rather than being reactive and thinking about things I can do afterwards.
Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Melinda Feemster. I am the Residential Facilities Coordinator here at North Carolina A&T State University, which is an HBCU. They say it's one of the top HBCUs in the nation. So I am a proud Aggie. I graduated from here in 2010 with my degree in business management. So in addition to being an employee or a staff member, I'm also an alum. Let's see, what do I do to de-stress? I think I woosah. That's probably the best thing, besides maybe a glass of wine. Shh, don't tell anybody. But really, it's just, you have to, for me, I have to be able to receive people for how they are, and not everybody may necessarily know how to effectively communicate. But maybe I'm not also an effective listener at all times. So I really have to, just kind of I woosah so that I'm able to, reevaluate a situation and make sure that, whatever I've received or whatever I've taken from it, isn't like I didn't perpetuate that negative feeling that maybe I had, or that I'm not adding to a stressful situation. Like the only person that can de-stress a situation for me is me. So I really try to, look at myself in the mirror and say, what could I have done different, or how could I have handled the situation, better to make it, a more friendly environment for anybody else involved. And I'm big on acknowledging, my faults. We're all human, we make mistakes. So I guess, for me, the de-stressing is just reevaluating a situation and seeing how I can move forward in a more helpful, positive light for myself and for those around me. So that's kind of my little spiel. I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks for sharing, Melinda. Yara, do you want to offer some insight?
Yeah. So as I said before, I'm the Assistant Residence Life Coordinator over at USF, and basically what that entails is I co-supervise a group of RAs, as well as advise our hall council and provide support for our residential population. And this is the first time for me as a graduate student, of course, supervising a group of students, especially ones that are very close to my age. And then, I kind of work throughout the day, and then I go to class at night. So a lot of my self-care habits have been centered around how do I find time for myself to de-stress and decompose, just because right now in my role, I'm showing up for my students and I want to be the best that I can. So that has to do a lot with self-care. So some of the things that I do is I go to therapy. I'm really open about that. And I utilize the tools that my therapist provides me. And a lot of that is mindfulness techniques, journaling, using reflective questioning, trying to understand myself, and challenging some of my unproductive thinking, and just changing my mind frame so I can show up as best that I can for everyone around me and myself. And I also have invisible disabilities and a chronic illness, so I make sure to take care of my physical health as well, because that too can also get in the way of what I do. So, doing things like taking my vitamins, making sure I'm eating the right meals that I need to, going outside, doing yoga, just some things like that. But I've noticed as a grad student, because my days are normally full from morning to evening, sometimes those small tasks do seem like a lot. When you have so much going on, just little things like that feel like more stress. So one of my challenges has been, viewing these tasks as daily routines instead of things that are more on my plate. Excuse me. So with that, what I do is I kind of practice preventative self-care. So I'm not just going throughout the day and then just crashing all the way at the end. So with preventative self-care, that's basically just making sure I incorporate those small self-care tasks into my day, just so it feels like a habit, like a good routine, so it doesn't seem like a lot to me. And then I would say another challenge for me has been coming from my ethnic identity. I am second generation Arab American. And in our culture, my Jordanian culture, self-worth is kind of connected to your productivity and how much you can provide and how much success you can achieve. So in those moments where I have free time or I'm not doing anything, you know, in my head, I'm like, you know, you need to be doing something. I have to be accomplishing this goal. I need to do this for this person so I can feel better about myself, which is not a good way to think. So a big challenge is kind of reframing those thoughts and messages that I've received about how we're supposed to show up. And I guess the final thing would be making sure that I believe that I do deserve self-care, because, you know, when I say I don't have time to go walk outside, I don't have time to cook dinner, that's sometimes coming from a place of me thinking that I don't deserve it. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you both so much for sharing. I think honestly, all the pieces you sort of put out for us leads perfectly into our next question for you, which is, what do you believe is the value of practicing self-care? And then how do you empower others to do so? And I think you both talked about your challenges, and I wonder how that shows up when, encouraging others to take care of themselves in different ways as well.
I think for me, this is especially challenging, being a clinician, knowing that people are really looking to me to be the expert in all of these areas. And so there's many times where my clients will say to me, like, you have it all together. And if they only knew, like, I definitely don't have it all together. And so a lot of what I do is try to practice like radical genuineness and just really try to be genuine with them and let them know, like, we all struggle. We all have things that we've dealt with, and trying to use an appropriate amount of like personal disclosure to share with them that and normalize a lot of what they're experiencing. So I think that's the number one thing for me, is how I empower them, is just being genuine, normalizing that what they're experiencing is a part of, just growing pains. And, everybody, especially like during the COVID-19 pandemic, I can't tell you how many college students that have come and worked with me, and they're all experiencing the same things, navigating this new environment. And they share that no one else is experiencing this. Everyone else has it together. And so a lot of it is about combating those worry thoughts and challenging those interpretations and assumptions, and helping them check the facts about what's really happening and what their peers are experiencing. So that's a lot of what I've been doing. And also helping them kind of figure out what are their values and priorities, and how what they're doing or not doing is getting in the way in terms of like their self-care, anxiety, and stress, because we know that self-care is going to help reduce those intense emotions, the stress and anxiety. And it's proven to be really effective in terms of reducing emotional distress, is taking care of those basic needs, like I said, building mastery, taking care of yourself. And also just, I'm so happy, Yara, you talked about that you attend counseling and normalizing that for folks here, because I think that's so important. And just in general, not being afraid to talk about the challenges that exist in the profession and field. Like, I'm not going to lie, I got out of the field because I felt like it was so challenging. I worked in housing for a long time, and it was really challenging. And I felt like I didn't have the support I needed. And it's not, anything in regard to like my experience in terms of like my staff or my professionals. I just felt like there was more work that I needed to do, and I didn't feel like it was a safe space to explore that with colleagues. And so I'm so thankful that you all have this space to do that together, because I really feel like it's a great thing for you all to be supporting each other. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, can I chime in? I want to piggyback off of what Amanda said. And I think it's something that I kind of had to tap into for myself in regards to, like confirming to students that they're not the only ones going through this. I have an 18-year-old who is in her senior year of high school and has actually wanted to attend this university. And when she would first kind of come at me with, feeling like she was in it by herself, I would chuckle because it's like, are you serious? Like the COVID has affected the world. It's not like it's affected, just Greensboro, North Carolina, or just North Carolina, like the entire world. So I really, there was a time when I couldn't relate and understand that she could have those feelings, so I really had to, kind of tap into that, taking accountability and realizing that I shouldn't have chuckled because that kind of maybe made her feel like I was dismissing her feelings. And it was a challenge because I think one of the biggest things for me is understanding that common sense is not common. So many people, you're an individual, so people don't think the way that you think, even though you think they should, or you think they would, especially when you encounter educational people, you would assume that, come on, that's like a no-brainer. Of course you think the same way or have those same feelings, but no, you really have to, make sure that you look at that person for who they are and don't overjudge or make any assumptions, because 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to be wrong. So making sure that in the situation with my daughter, that I was able to just kind of reaffirm and let her know and show her examples of other people in similar situations, like I would be able to, because now working in housing, which I started out in IT and I've been in housing for the last 6 years. It's, when I'm trying to explain to her, look, you're concerned about prom and, you're concerned about graduating high school. Consider, these young adults who are looking to, start a career, who have invested time and energy and, like time away from their families, students that are coming from, states away, or, foreign students, international students, coming, or transfer students. There are so many people that have been impacted, and so many students that, ended up being displaced because in some instances, housing would shut down at a university and everybody would have to, kind of go back where you came from. And then you gotta, for those students that never took classes online, you've got to get acclimated to now being in an online environment, so it was really difficult for her. I think there are still some challenges for her, but it just kind of put things in perspective for me and allowed me to put things in perspective for her. So, that was a really good thing. I so get sidetracked, my mind goes. So I just totally lost what I was originally going to talk about. So I'm going to stop here, but that was just something I definitely wanted to touch on. But I also know that there was something that Yara had said that I wanted to touch on. Oh, I totally can support the counseling. That is definitely, I'm an advocate for counseling. I always have been. So kudos for you for, owning that and sharing that. I do believe that, this forum, with women, we should definitely be able to be free and express ourselves and, not be fearful of being judged, because we're here, as women in the industry to support one another. And we have to do that genuinely. And I just, I so am just in awe that you were so free. And I guess that's why I'm regurgitating stuff, because you made me feel like I could be free. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those kind words. And I'm glad that I was able to do that for you today. But circling back to what you said, I think, normalizing talking about therapy is a huge step to empowering other people, because, in a lot of cultures and spaces, it's seen as taboo or something that you should be ashamed of, when really it's such a big part of taking care of ourselves. And really at the end of the day, all you do have is yourself. And if you're not fully rejuvenated and healthy mind and body, then it's really hard to show up for yourself and then do your job and all those other roles that you have to play every day. So that's the value of self-care. And then with empowering people, you know, just being honest and transparent about how you feel and how, you know, stress shows up for you, and then asking for your needs. And I feel like, especially with my students being so close to age as me, whenever I, you know, open up about, hey, like I'm taking this day off because I want to take care of myself, or, you know, asking for what I need, I feel like that sets a really good example for doing that, especially in the workplace, and just in their undergraduate careers in general. So making sure that I'm setting up a good example for everyone, because I feel like that usually kind of sparks some sort of, you know, excitement to do that as well. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you both for sharing your thoughts. I think now we really want to open it up to the group, and alongside you two, Yara and Amanda, obviously as well, to please contribute. We're really hoping the other women in this space will like to offer some thoughts. So we have 2 questions we're going to open up for you all, and we really hope it's conversational based and that we can just take away some things together and do a little group thinking and learning. But before we do that, I want to shout out Christy Shore for helping monitor the chat, as well as Dan Hughes for being here as well. So if you two want to introduce yourselves and just pop in for a second and say hello, just because I feel like you are some friendly faces that everyone should know on our time together.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deanna C. Hughes. I use she, her pronouns. If you hear randomness in the background, it's because I have my little lady sitting right to the left of me. But it's a pleasure to be in this space with you all. Since coming back from getting them from school, this is exactly what I needed. So I appreciate you, Amanda, you, Yara, even Melinda. I heard some really good things to be reminded of. And right now, I'm just kind of resonating with the importance to give self-grace. So again, I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what's on everybody else's hearts and how we have made it and continue to press forward to the best of our abilities, with this being a very real COVID year and some change within the profession.
Hi there, Olivia. You're doing so good. I'm so proud of you. My name is Christy Shore. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an associate director of housing at Lynn University. If you hear randomness in my background, it's because my office is across from the laundry room. So a little bit of a different type of noise. But I can say that I'm very excited to hear and talk with everyone as well. We just had closing this weekend, and I have quickly realized, there goes my phone still ringing. I have quickly realized how much I use my weekend time to recharge, because I didn't take it to any time off yet. And so this is refreshing into hearing what everyone does for self-care, because I am very much ready to have my first weekend in a couple weeks now that we've closed. So I'm excited to continue to chat. Thanks for having us and everyone coming.
Awesome. Well, I know I'm definitely going to be taking notes of things that I can utilize in my own life moving forward. So feel free to put things in the chat. Feel free to also just pop in some other questions if you have them for our panelists. But our question for you all, feel free to just talk out and share, is how do you practice self-care in times of high stress and struggle?
I can go first. Most people know this about me if you do know me, but I go to the gym every day. I know that's not for everyone, but I make a point to wake up really, really early to go to the gym. I can even feel that I didn't go to the gym this morning because I went to the Panthers playoff game last night that we lost. But I will tell you that I can feel the difference of my energy right now as we go into 4 o'clock. Comparison when I do go to the gym, it's just I still have energy. So I do that for myself. I also would say that I set boundaries with my peers for the most part. I don't really schedule to do things Monday through Thursday nights. My friends know that about me, that one, it's going to save me money because I won't spend money on food, because I feel like that's all we do is like, well, let's go get something to eat. And then I spend like $40 later, very quickly. And then also, so I just spend that time by myself. I, have my meals that keep me on track also with my like meal plan that I do and things like that. So I like schedule out times, and my friends are quite aware, like, you want to hang out like Friday, Saturday, Sunday is more my speed, because I need that time to myself in order to be my best me every single day of the week.
Hi, I'm eager. Well, let me introduce myself. Hello, my name is Mia. I'm actually a graduate student at San Francisco State University in California. Actually, I work in res life. I'm a student leader in residential life, but will be moving into my first supervisory role in the summer. So Yara, I'm really happy with your experience being a graduate student and dealing with that as well. But I would really love to hear any other people who have been a graduate student and also overseeing students, because right now it's finals and it's killing me. And being on search committees, we're like trying to rehire more staff because we're upping our capacity for next year. And it's really, really hard. Like my supervisors have been asking like, me, are you okay? Because I'm like, do you need anything? And I'm just like, I feel this, like, what do y'all do when like you're feeling this obligation as a student to really want to like impress your supervisors? Because to be honest, I really want to impress them by being on these search committees and being very active because I want a job after I graduate. So how do you deal with that and balance that, especially being in school?
Yeah, so I personally, my first year as a grad student, I was given the option to either join a committee in our department or not to. I chose not to because I mentioned from the start that I wanted to focus on my education first, since it was my first time as a grad student. And switching a different career, I started out as a biology major, and that's what I kind of got my degree in. So going from biology to grad school and studying student affairs is a huge change. And I had to make a lot of different changes to the way I study and all of that process. So going into it, I kind of was vocal about setting that boundary, like, hey, I know that this is an opportunity that I can do, joining a committee, but I would like to take this year to kind of focus more on getting my grad school stuff together, so that next year, when I am a second year grad student, I already know how things go, how to manage my time as a student, so then I can put a lot of focus into my role as a assistant residence life coordinator. So I would say kind of setting that boundary, but also focusing on figuring out how you can manage school. I know a lot of my peers do their homework on the weekdays, but for me, that's like a weekend thing. I need my weeknights. So figuring out how you can balance work and school goes a long way, and just not being afraid to ask your supervisor, like, hey, because they were there at one point. They were there in grad school. So being like, hey, like, what are some tips that you have? What worked for you? I'm trying to like show up the best that I can, and just need some tips. But yeah.
I just want to add as well. So I was a graduate student twice. So I had my master's degree in higher ed and then my master's degree in clinical counseling, and I was a graduate assistant both times. And so it was really challenging to manage school and work. So everything you're saying, I really resonate with, and I appreciate you sharing. And so this kind of goes off what Yara was saying is, I'm a recovering people pleaser. That's what I like to say, like, because I just honestly want to say yes to everything. And I have a hard time saying no. And I think it's like most of the women in our field have this experience. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I feel that in my soul too. And so it got to the point where I figured that a lot of it was my imposter syndrome showing up. And it was less about, I felt like I had such high expectations of myself. My supervisor already thought I was doing amazing. I actually was outperforming a lot of people and I still felt like I was not doing enough. So a lot of it was like setting my own limits and setting my own boundaries, like Yara said, and also feeling like it was okay to do that and knowing that people wouldn't be disappointed in me. And there's actually a lot of research out there that supports like multitasking is not really effective. And I feel like we're masters of multitasking. And we feel like we're being really effective, but we're actually not at all. So like one of the things that we say to our clients, which I think is actually really funny, because we'll ask them, we'll say like, who here is really good at multitasking? And they'll all raise their hands. And so we'll say to them, well, would you want your surgeon multitasking? And they say no. And it's like, well, why not? Why would you not want your surgeon multitasking? Well, because they wouldn't be as effective. Absolutely. Like you're not going to be as effective as a clinician, right? If you're multitasking. So it's about doing things that are bringing you rest and also renewal. And I think that's really important in setting those limits. So just know that I hear what you're saying. It's tough and not being afraid to not be a people pleaser. I don't know if that relates to you or not, but it related to me. So I just had to say that.
I'd like to add really quickly, Nia, as someone who supervises grads, I'm already impressed with everything that they manage and do, especially in the pandemic. So I hear, Amanda, in the imposter syndrome, when I was a grad student, first gen woman of color, trying to break into the field and break generational poverty and things like that. I really had to remind myself of what my measure of success was. And so that always helps me recalibrate. But I just want to say, if your supervisor should not be not impressed with you for not serving on every committee. If they are, then perhaps the supervisor needs to recalibrate their expectations of success as well. And also, shameless plug, I'm the Director of Residential Communities at Swarthmore College, and we are currently selecting a new RCC, a Residential Communities Coordinator or Residence Director equivalent. So if any folks are interested in applying, let me know. But please keep in mind, not serving on one committee does not warrant failure or approval from your supervisor. If it does, give me your supervisor's info and I'll go have a conversation. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'll do it. Not kidding. I believe in carefrontation.
There we go.
Not to scare them up, but sometimes we are our own worst enemies as well. And I know positionality, it tends to have an interesting stigma from individuals who are hoping to obtain the full-time status. I believe it was Amanda who spoke to it earlier. Like people have this perception that we have it together. The older you are, the more seasoned you are, the longer you've been in the field. And sometimes nothing could be more further from the truth. We may just be great at mastering the poker face. We may have also been mentored and sharpened by individuals who were not allowed to have spaces like this and be vulnerable in the reality then where it wasn't grace to talk about how you felt and if you needed a break. If anything, you were trying to let folks know that women can do it just the same, if not better than the man, right? And here we are trying to continue to remove glass ceilings and break barriers. So this is a testament in my mind, but during high stress times, women have always showed up since the beginning of time. And sometimes I feel like society as a whole is used to women standing in the crutch, right? Or being the clutch player for those who are into athletics. But high stress times for me, it's almost like I prepare for them. So if you do not have this tool in your toolkit, please look at your calendar and at least once a month, just take a day off just because. Go ahead and block it off in advance, send it to your supervisor. You don't need to have a dentist appointment, y'all. You don't need to have a doctor's appointment. You just take it off and decide to do whatever you want to do. If it's lay on the couch and rest, do that. If it's go to your favorite restaurant, do that. If it's soak in the tub with the playlist going at an odd hour in the day because you have that capacity to do so, love on you, because at the end of the day, you come back better. You come back focused. People appreciate you more because you have clarity and the energy to do what you need to do because you've paced yourself. So like during high stress times, I'm like, I signed up to be a housing professional. It's inevitable. So how do I at least know one day out of the month. And if I don't do it, I have that accountability partner that will call me out like, hey, we're on day 15 out of 30, 31. You took it off yet? Have you requested? Because I'm gonna keep calling you till you do it. And I'm like, I appreciate you, because we always defer and take care of everybody else and everything. So please implement that as just a step towards making sense of what does personal wellness look like for you, until you can clearly say, like Christy said, I'm getting my gym time in. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? I'm gonna go do what I do. I'm gonna come back feeling better with more pep in my step, and folks are gonna be like, how are you doing that? And you're gonna say, hey, taking the day off just because, not waiting until things implode.
And I will say my team knows. My team is quite aware. Like everybody in my housing team is like, Christy's going to sleep at 9 p.m. She'll be at the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like, don't call her. Like, it is a known fact, and those around me support what I need in order to be the best me. And that's another key thing, is looking at those on your team or looking at what you need in a supervisor and recognizing those things. Because as you progress in the field, you're going to start to realize this is what I need to be successful from those around me, from my supervisor, from the culture at the institution you're working at. And you're going to be able to say for yourself, maybe like, as much as I always think of on campus as a two-way street. Yeah, they got to want you, but you got to want them. It goes both ways. And so remembering those pieces about your self-care, how do you be the best you can be, and what you need in order for that to happen. And then you're going to be able to start thinking about those things, those non-negotiables that you need from an institution.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Amber Stoltz. I'm a hall director at Georgia Institute of Technology, often referred to as Georgia Tech. So I'm going into my 5th professional year. It goes by quickly. For those of you who are in grad school, I really did not see this here. But so my question is for myself, or like more seasoned professionals on the call. We utilize a lot of those tips already, but when you start to think about burnout, or as you think about moving up into different levels where there's more expectations, you're pulled into more meetings, you still may have roles where you need to be with students late nights. How do you continue to manage that? I heard something about preventative self-care earlier. That was a newer concept to me. So also, if there's an opportunity to dive more into that, that sounds like it could be helpful. Thank you.
Amber, so one of the things that I kind of touched on was that we all have like these vulnerability factors that often get in the way of us for our ability to really be able to manage our emotion, our anxiety, and our stress. And a lot of it is just like some of those basic needs that fall to the wayside when we're no longer, like when we're super engaged and involved in our work. And so just kind of going back to like the things that, like, having a balanced diet, trying as much as you can to have a consistent sleep schedule if possible, trying to have positive experiences in your life and adding those daily. I think also, like for me, because I have imposter syndrome, like doing something that really helps me build confidence every day, making me feel like I'm contributing, is so important for me in terms of like my self-care. I was the person who, and Amber, you and I, so can I share how we know each other? So Amber and I were RAs back in the day, funny story. So like we go way back. So it's pretty cool that I'm seeing her on the call. So I'm excited to see her. So anyways, I got distracted by that, but I just wanted to share because I think it's so cool how everything kind of comes full circle.
I thought so too.
Yeah. But like for me, I progressed kind of similarly to how you're progressing, Amber. Like I started as an RA, then went to grad school, then became, an RD, and then I was supervising professional staff and serving on committees and hiring and everything. And it got to be so overwhelming. And then like as my hall directors dropped off, I was then filling in for their buildings, and it just became like way too distressing for me. And so like I am not a good example of someone practicing self-care in those moments. Like it actually led to me to leaving the field because it was too overwhelming for me. And so I think a lot of it goes back to like I was not paying attention to what my vulnerabilities were, and I was not taking care of myself, and I was putting everyone else before me. And so I think at some point, like, and as I've learned to be a professional counselor now and a therapist, I'm recognizing how important those things actually are. And it really is so important to practice what you preach. And I know it seems so simple. And like, I tell my clients this all the time. They're like, what do you mean? Like, sleeping's not going to help me. I don't have time to sleep, or, you know, eating a balanced diet or the exercise is not going to help me. And I'm telling you, like, just try it, like, give it some time and like do those basic things and see how you feel. Because it makes a world of a difference. It really does. And I don't know if that's helpful or not. I just want to share, like, it was really difficult. And I don't want to see that happen to other folks in the field where they're feeling like they're pushed out. And really paying attention to what your vulnerabilities are and trying to be proactive rather than reactive after the fact. Because at some point it's going to become too overwhelming, and then you're like treading and you're like trying to get out and you're just like slowly falling in quicksand. And it's so much harder to get out once you've gotten to a certain point. So I don't know if that was helpful or not.
Amber, when I think about preventative self-care, I feel that, you know, it's the airplane analogy of you put the mask on you first before you put it on someone you're helping. And it's funny, I oversee all conflict mediation for my institution. So when things get out of control very quickly, everyone's problems are my problem very quickly. And I have to take on their problems, right? Like I do, that's my job. I literally get yelled at for a living at times. And so what's funny is I go into RA training for conflict and mediation and talking about roommate issues and how to navigate things. And the first thing I always say to them is, I just want you all to know that I have a life outside of this job. That's the first thing I say to them. And they all look at me like, what does that even mean? Like, Christy, you're bold. Like we're in like all day training right now. And you're telling me you have a life outside of here. And I'm like, I do. And I was like, and I say that to you because you should too. And even as RAs, I preach to them that yes, this job can be demanding. Unfortunately, there's a culture or stigma at times that your RA is your life. I don't preach that, because you can't be the best RA, you can't be the professional without having a life outside of your role. And so I preach that to all my staff, my team, everyone. And I make very clear, like, yeah, I do everything in my power to have friends outside of my university, people that literally don't even work in higher education, because unfortunately, us higher ed friends, we like to talk about our jobs and our passions, and we go to happy hour together and we're still talking about work. And I'm just like, how did I get here? Like, we're off site right now. And so I really strive really, really hard to find hobbies outside of my job. You know, and I try really, really hard to find things that I can do that bring me joy, that bring my heart happiness, that is exciting outside of what I get to do here. And sometimes they still relate. Like I'm on an advisory board for Big Brothers Big Sisters for Palm Beach County. I'm in Florida. And so, like, does it revert back to the fact that I like helping people? Yeah, that is, then that's part of higher ed, but it's something different, right? Or networking in other ways, or just literally like I like when I say go to the gym, I do kickboxing. So like super outside of my comfort zone of Lynn University. But I think that for me is being very clear that they're outside my office. Being very clear that I have a life outside of here has been a game changer for me, and setting those boundaries accordingly, and making sure that that's the priority is preventative for me.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share with Amber? I'm not seasoned, so I don't know if anyone else wants to pitch it.
I shared this in the comments section, in the chat section. Sorry, Deanna, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I block my calendar. So, right, like people can really be aggressive, I guess, maybe about scheduling meetings and taking up your time. And so I've learned to protect my calendar. And so I block times on my calendar for email every morning. You are not going to catch me in a meeting before 9 o'clock, because first of all, you're not going to get the best me. And also, like, I need to roll into my office, finish my coffee, check my email, see who thinks they're in crisis from last night, you know, check all the facilities logs. I need all that time. So I block my calendar there. I'm fortunate to have supervisors who allow me to block 90 minutes for lunch. And so I do, if you had access to my calendar, you would see it says lunch and walk. And so I'm trying to intentionally get away from my desk. In the times of COVID, I have noticed that I don't leave my desk for lunch other than like pulling it out of the fridge or reheating it, right? Because there's just no communal space and folks are not gathering together. And so trying to do things like that. And then at the end of my day specifically, I have 30 minutes for wrap up time, because otherwise people I found were having me in meetings until 5 o'clock. And then again, I don't get to check my email and see what needs to happen for tomorrow. I don't get a chance to help myself think about the next day and at least mentally prepare for the next day. And then recently some things I'm doing. So we're a Microsoft, we're an Office 365 campus. And so something new, I think, is that I keep getting these like sort of daily analytics. And so I've been trying out this thing that they're suggesting called focus time, and it will put it on my calendar for me. And then it turns off my chat that is affiliated with my work account. So I won't even see notifications except for if they're on my like important people list, and I put my supervisors on that, because if they're messaging me, I probably should pay attention. But I've been able to spend my time doing what I need to do rather than what other people need me to do for them. And I found a lot of value and benefit in that. And then the last piece, and then I'm done talking, is scheduling time for professional development so that I don't always have to do it on my own time when it's my family time or when it's my time, right? And so doing that. Actually, I lied. I have one more thought. The last thought is I have found areas of passion that do not include work. So similar to what Christy was saying, but then also not my family, right? Like I need a hot second away from my family as well. And I love them. I got the cutest kids in the whole world, and you can fight me on that one. But I do. I really have really cute kids, but I need my time away from them. And I have found some other things to do that don't include them. You know, I started podcasting. I just got a Cricut. And so doing things like that I want to do on my Cricut. I'm reading books. I'm following a whole bunch of health coaches on Instagram. So I'm like trying to do all their fun tips, right? I go for a 10-minute walk by myself, no phone, no other humans around me. Holy smokes. Do you know how many noises nature makes when you're not, right? Like distracted by all the other things. So those are just a couple things. I rambled a lot. Apologies for that.
That was not ramble at all. That was amazing. And Michelle, I actually was going to highlight that point because a lot of what you shared, that's preventative at its finest. But thank you so much for jumping in and sharing that. The only thing that I could think of that I know has been very helpful is that do not disturb option on the phone, especially as a live-in professional. And then to Christy's point, proactively communicating it. And as often as necessary when people forget, like, hey, y'all, after 9 p.m. Eastern time, for those who want to be funny, I'm not available, right? When I have the duty phone, that's an exception, right? But when I don't have the duty phone, the whole purpose of a team and everyone pulling together, I'm with you, Christy. I'm with you till Friday. The do not disturb option and then remembering to follow through on not responding has been the game changer. And when I can't help myself, y'all, I'll put everything in drafts and set it to be sent the following morning if I just feel like I need to do something after hours due to the ebbs and the flows of housing been asking for a lot with just so much time, right? But a personal wellness plan, if you have not created one, it is so many templates out there that works for you, is the best preventative way to slow down sometimes that inevitable process of, I am burnt out, right? I need a vacation. Or I just, hey, does comp time exist? Because I don't have enough hours, but unapologetically advocating for what you need and letting them know the added value is me being at my best self. So here's why I'm asking for these things. But Yada, when I tell you, like God sitting here and how you're already mindfully advocating for yourself, that just helps me to speak to, hey, it's Nia's and Yada's in this world that are doing it, future and current grads. Don't wait until you get a little bit older in the game to decide, right? Don't get all of these scars and wounds to then be able to say, here's how I'm taking care of myself for the long run because I love me and I love the profession.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. Sorry, saying see you later. Awesome. So I think to be respectful of everyone's time, and I want to wrap up at 4. We're all very busy. I'm sure, and like we said, we need our own time. So I hope we all log off and don't go into other meetings. I know that's y'all's business though. So if we could just take a few moments to give some kudos to our awesome panelists. Thank you so much, Amanda and Yara. Feel free to speak out, put in the chat. We're so grateful for your time and your energy and just sharing your thoughts and experiences, and everyone else who joined us today. I had a blast. I appreciate you all coming, and I hope you join us for our future roundtables. They will be a monthly occurrence, so look out for those future topics. And yeah, we're really excited moving forward. Yeah, Deanna says thank you all for being here in this space with us. Absolutely. Awesome. Deanna, I don't know if you had any closing remarks or things you wanted to share out before we ended our time together.
Yeah, thank you for that. The only thing, if you have yet to plug in to our social medias, please do. The marketing education team is doing an amazing job. We just lost Star because I was going to tell her to put in the plug. But if you are looking to get engaged with the amazing things that's happening within the committee, please reach out to me and I'll be sure to put my email in right now as I'm talking to you. If you have yet to join the Insta and Facebook group page to see just different resources and other things that are forthcoming, like our mentor and mentee match that should be flushed out to come you all's way this month. Please stay tuned and we'll continue to give you more updates as we receive them in our month-to-month roundtables.
I just want to say thank you so much. Excuse me. I really enjoyed, just being here and chatting with you ladies and hearing the different insights and feelings and all of that. It seems like, I feel like we've only been on here for like 6.6 minutes. It just goes so fast. Like there's never enough time to kind of hear from everybody and get it all out. And, so I would hope that we have the opportunity to do this again. It was really enjoyable, and just thank you. Thank you. Olivia, you did amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. If you have any other questions or concerns, feel free to message us in the chat. But if not, have a lovely day. And hopefully you have some ways to de-stress and take care of yourselves to put into action over the next few weeks.